Have you ever wondered why negativity seems to play such a powerful role in our lives? Why does it feel like negative thoughts and emotions have a stronger grip on us than the positive ones? Do you ever catch yourself thinking, why does it seem easier to get caught up in worry, fear, or frustration than in peace, joy, or calm? We all have those moments when the weight of negative emotions seems overwhelming. But what if I told you that negativity, when viewed through the right lens, can actually transform your life for the better? Think about this. When we face challenges or difficult emotions, they often serve as a wake-up call, pushing us to grow in ways we never expected. Let's say you've been stuck in a job that doesn't fulfill you. You're unhappy, frustrated, maybe even angry. That negativity could be the push you need to finally make a change, to seek out a career or passion that truly aligns with who you are. It's not the negativity itself that's harmful. It's how we choose to deal with it that matters most. Welcome to Wisdom Woven, where today we're going to dive deep into how negativity, when approached mindfully, can become a tool for transformation. But before we get into the details, let me remind you, there are so many views on this channel, but only 0.2% of you have subscribed. If you find this video helpful, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It makes a huge difference and helps us bring more content to you. Now, negativity is often seen as something to avoid, but in Buddhism, negativity and suffering are viewed differently. Instead of trying to escape negative emotions, we can learn from them. Buddhism teaches that suffering is an inevitable part of life, something we cannot ignore or outrun. But instead of letting it consume us, we are encouraged to embrace it, observe it, and understand its root cause. In the same way, negativity can teach us valuable lessons if we take the time to listen. It can show us where we need to heal, where we are out of alignment, and where we need to grow. For example, feelings of jealousy or envy might indicate that you're not fully content with your current situation. Instead of suppressing these feelings, you can use them to reflect on what you truly desire and how you can work toward achieving it. In this video, we'll explore how adopting a different perspective on negativity can lead to profound personal growth. Negativity, in its essence, is neither good nor bad. It's simply a signal that something in our life needs attention. Understanding the nature of negativity. Negativity. It's something we all know so well, isn't it? It can come in many forms: doubt, fear, anger, frustration. Sometimes it's subtle, like a nagging feeling in the back of your mind that something isn't right. Other times, it's all-consuming, like a storm that clouds your thoughts and emotions. But what is negativity, really? Where does it come from? Why does it seem to follow us through life, no matter how hard we try to escape it? Let me take you on a little journey. Picture yourself standing in a quiet forest. Everything is calm, peaceful, but suddenly, you hear a rustle in the bushes. Instinctively, you feel a jolt of fear. What's that? Is it dangerous? Should you run? That jolt, that momentary rush of fear, is your mind's way of protecting you. Negativity, in its rawest form, often starts as a survival mechanism. Our ancestors had to be on alert for danger, always ready to respond to threats. So, negativity became a part of how our minds work. It keeps us cautious, aware, and ready for action. But here's the thing. In today's world, that same negativity can become overactive. We're no longer being chased by wild animals or facing life-threatening situations every day, but our minds still react as though we are. A negative comment from someone, a failure at work, a missed opportunity. These things can trigger the same emotional responses that were once meant to protect us. Our minds treat them like threats, and so negativity creeps in. However, negativity is not the enemy. In fact, it's not something to be feared or avoided. It's a part of being human. When we understand the nature of negativity, we can learn to work with it, rather than against it. In Buddhism, negativity is not seen as something to eliminate, but as something to be understood. It is a signal, a teacher, pointing us toward areas in our life that need attention or change. Think about how often you experience negative emotions in your daily life. Perhaps you feel anxious about an upcoming event, or maybe you get frustrated with a colleague or family member. These emotions can feel overwhelming at times, but they're also telling you something important. They're showing you where your attachments lie. What do I mean by attachments? I mean the things we cling to, the expectations, desires, and beliefs that we hold onto tightly. When reality doesn't meet our expectations, or when things don't go the way we want, negativity arises. Let's take an example. Imagine you're driving to work and you're running late. Traffic is heavy and you're stuck in a long line of cars. You feel your frustration building. Why can't the traffic move faster? Why didn't you leave earlier? In this moment, the negativity you're feeling is linked to your attachment to the idea that things should go smoothly, that you should be on time. Your frustration is not just about the traffic, but about the gap between your expectations and reality. This is the nature of negativity. It arises when we resist the way things are. But here's where the transformation begins. Instead of fighting against negativity, we can learn to observe it. We can step back and ask ourselves, what is this feeling trying to tell me? What am I holding on to that is causing this negativity? In doing so, we begin to loosen our grip on our attachments. We start to see that negativity is not something external, but something that arises from within us, from the way we perceive and react to the world. Buddhism teaches that life is full of impermanence. Nothing stays the same. Everything is always changing. When we cling to things, whether it's success, comfort, or even relationships, we set ourselves up for disappointment. Negativity often arises from our refusal to accept the natural flow of life. We want things to stay the way we want them to be, but life doesn't work that way. A key aspect of understanding negativity is recognizing that it's a part of the human experience. We all experience it, but the way we respond to it makes all the difference. Think about it. When you're feeling negative, how do you usually react? Do you try to push the feelings away, ignore them, or distract yourself? Or do you allow yourself to feel them fully, to sit with the discomfort and explore its source? One of the greatest insights we can gain from negativity is self-awareness. When we pause and reflect on why we're feeling a certain way, we learn more about ourselves. Negativity can show us where we need to grow, where we need to let go, and where we need to change our perspective. It's like a mirror reflecting back to us the areas of our life that are out of balance. Let's go back to that traffic example. Instead of getting lost in the frustration, what if you took a deep breath and observed the feeling? You might realize that your attachment to being on time is what's really bothering you, not the traffic itself. You might even notice that your desire for control is what's causing the negativity. By becoming aware of this, you have the opportunity to shift your mindset. You can't control the traffic, but you can control how you respond to it. This is the essence of mindfulness, a key practice in Buddhism. Mindfulness teaches us to be present with our thoughts and emotions without judgment. When we practice mindfulness, we learn to observe negativity as it arises, without getting swept away by it. We become more aware of our patterns, our attachments, and our reactions. And in that awareness, we find the power to change. Understanding the nature of negativity is the first step toward transforming it. Instead of seeing it as something to avoid or get rid of, we can start to view it as a guide. Negativity is like a compass, pointing us toward the areas of our life that need attention. When we approach it with curiosity instead of fear, we begin to see it as an opportunity for growth. Remember, negativity is not your enemy. It's a natural part of life, a part of being human. It's how we respond to it that shapes our experience. When we understand that negativity arises from our attachments, our desires, and our expectations, we begin to see that we have the power to change our relationship with it. We can choose to let go of the need for control, to accept the impermanence of life, and to approach negativity with openness and compassion. By doing so, we transform negativity from a source of suffering into a tool for self-awareness and growth. This is the beginning of true transformation, the moment when we stop resisting negativity and start learning from it. Buddhism's perspective on suffering and negativity. Let me share a story with you. It's a story as old as time itself, yet it holds a wisdom that never fades. Once, a monk came to the Buddha and asked, "Why do we suffer? Why is life filled with pain, loss, and disappointment?" The Buddha simply smiled and replied, "Suffering is a part of life, but it is not the enemy. It is our teacher." In Buddhism, suffering and negativity are not things we run away from. They are not to be feared or avoided. They are a natural part of the human experience. Life is a balance of opposites, joy and sorrow, light and darkness, comfort and discomfort. The key is not in escaping suffering, but in understanding it. You see, suffering in the Buddhist tradition is rooted in what we call dukkha. Dukkha is often translated as suffering, but it goes deeper than that. It's the sense of dissatisfaction that comes from craving, from wanting things to be different than they are. It's the feeling you get when you wish for something and it doesn't happen, or when you finally get what you want and it's not as fulfilling as you hoped. Imagine this. You have a dream, a goal, something you've been working toward for a long time. You finally achieve it, but instead of the overwhelming happiness you expected, there's this small, nagging feeling that it wasn't enough. Or maybe you reach a point in your life where everything seems perfect, yet you still feel a sense of emptiness. That's dukkha, this constant undercurrent of dissatisfaction that seems to follow us, no matter where we go or what we achieve. But Buddhism teaches us that this dissatisfaction, this suffering, is not a curse. It's not something to be angry about or afraid of. It's simply a fact of life. And the more we try to resist it, the more we suffer. Think about it. When something bad happens in your life, maybe you lose your job, face a breakup, or encounter a personal failure, your first instinct might be to resist it, to push the pain away, to pretend like it's not happening. But the more you resist, the stronger the negativity becomes. It's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater. The harder you push it down, the more forcefully it pops back up. In Buddhism, we are encouraged to face negativity head-on, not with anger or frustration, but with awareness and understanding. When we encounter pain, suffering, or negativity, we don't turn away. We look at it directly. We say, "Ah, there you are. I see you. What are you here to teach me?" This might sound strange at first. How could suffering possibly be a teacher? But think about the times in your life when you've grown the most. Was it during the easy, comfortable moments? Or was it during the times when you were challenged, when you faced hardship, when life didn't go according to plan? The Buddha taught that suffering is a doorway to deeper understanding, to greater wisdom, to compassion. It is through our struggles that we learn the most about ourselves and the world around us. Now, one of the core teachings of Buddhism is the Four Noble Truths, and these truths provide a roadmap for understanding suffering and negativity in our lives. The first truth is simple: suffering exists. Life contains pain. We all know this, deep down. No matter how hard we try to avoid it, suffering is inevitable. But instead of seeing this as something negative, the first noble truth asks us to accept this reality, to stop running from it, to face it with courage. The second truth is equally important. The cause of suffering is attachment and craving. We suffer because we cling to things. We cling to people, to outcomes, to possessions, to our identities. We want things to stay the same, or we want things to be different than they are. This attachment, this craving for control, is the root of our suffering. Think of a time when you really wanted something to happen in your life. Maybe you wanted a promotion, or you wanted a relationship to work out. You put all your energy into this desire, and when it didn't happen the way you wanted, you felt crushed. That's attachment at work. It's not the situation itself that causes suffering. It's the attachment to a specific outcome. The third truth is perhaps the most hopeful. Suffering can end. If suffering is caused by attachment, then the way to end suffering is to let go of that attachment. This doesn't mean we stop caring, or that we become indifferent to life. It means we stop clinging. We learn to accept life as it is, without constantly wishing for it to be different. This leads us to the fourth truth. There is a path to the end of suffering, and that path is the Noble Eightfold Path. This path includes things like right mindfulness, right action, and right understanding. It's a way of living that helps us let go of the attachments and cravings that cause our suffering. It helps us live in harmony with the world around us, without constantly struggling against it. Now, you might be wondering, how does this relate to negativity? Well, negativity is often a form of resistance. It's what happens when we resist the reality of our lives. We get angry, frustrated, or upset because things aren't going the way we want them to. But if we follow the teachings of the Four Noble Truths, we can start to see negativity in a different light. Instead of seeing negativity as something bad, something to be avoided, we can start to see it as a signal. It's a sign that we are holding on too tightly to something, that we are resisting the flow of life. When we feel negative emotions, anger, frustration, jealousy, we can pause and ask ourselves, what am I clinging to? What am I resisting? By asking these questions, we can begin to unravel the root of our suffering. We can start to let go of the attachments and cravings that are causing our negativity. And in doing so, we can transform that negativity into something positive. This is the power of Buddhism's perspective on suffering and negativity. It teaches us that suffering is not something to be feared, but something to be understood. It's a part of life, but it doesn't have to control us. By embracing suffering, by understanding its causes, we can free ourselves from its grip and live a life of greater peace, compassion, and wisdom. Negativity, then, becomes not a burden, but a teacher. It shows us where we are holding on too tightly, where we need to let go. It guides us toward deeper understanding and growth. And this, my friends, is the true essence of Buddhist wisdom. Suffering and negativity are not our enemies. They are our teachers, our guides, leading us on the path to enlightenment and inner peace. Embracing negative emotions, lessons from Buddhist teachings. Sit down for a moment and take a deep breath. Let's talk about something we often avoid, something that makes us uncomfortable, our negative emotions. We all experience them: anger, sadness, frustration, jealousy, fear. These emotions arise in all of us at some point or another. The question is, how do we deal with them? Do we ignore them? Do we push them away and pretend they don't exist? Or do we allow them to take over our minds, letting them control how we think, feel, and act? In Buddhism, there's a different way. Rather than running away from negative emotions or trying to fight them, we learn to embrace them. We sit with them, observe them, and, most importantly, we understand them. This may sound difficult, but it is one of the most transformative practices you can adopt. Embracing negativity doesn't mean you welcome suffering into your life on purpose. It means you allow yourself to experience those emotions without judgment, with awareness, and with compassion. Let's start with an example. Imagine you're feeling angry. Someone said something hurtful to you, or perhaps a situation didn't go your way. That anger builds up inside, and you feel it boiling in your chest. Most of us, when faced with this kind of emotion, do one of two things. We either lash out, expressing our anger in ways that might harm others or ourselves, or we suppress it, pretending it's not there while it festers beneath the surface. But what if, instead, we took a moment to acknowledge that anger? In Buddhist teachings, this is where mindfulness comes in. You simply observe, I am feeling angry. You don't push it away, but you also don't act on it impulsively. You allow yourself to feel the emotion fully, without adding stories or judgments to it. You don't say, I'm a bad person for being angry, or this is all someone else's fault. You just notice, this is anger. By doing this, you take the power away from the emotion. You become an observer rather than a participant in the anger. And from that place of observation, you can begin to ask deeper questions. Why am I angry? What triggered this feeling? Is it because I'm hurt? Am I scared of something? Am I holding on to something that I need to let go of? When you approach your negative emotions with this kind of curiosity and openness, you begin to see that they are not your enemies. In fact, they are your greatest teachers. Let me tell you a story from the life of the Buddha. One day, as the Buddha was meditating under the Bodhi tree, a figure approached him. This figure was Mara, the embodiment of desire, fear, and all the negative emotions that arise in the mind. Mara tried to tempt the Buddha, tried to distract him with fear and anger. But the Buddha didn't fight Mara. He didn't run away from Mara. Instead, the Buddha calmly said, I see you, Mara. And then, he invited Mara to sit down with him for tea. This story may sound simple, but it holds a powerful lesson. When we recognize our negative emotions, when we see them for what they are, we take away their ability to control us. Just like the Buddha invited Mara to sit down with him, we can invite our anger, our sadness, our fear to sit with us. We acknowledge their presence, but we don't let them dictate our actions. Now, this doesn't mean we become passive in the face of negative emotions. It doesn't mean we just sit there and let them wash over us without any reaction. But it does mean that we approach them with a sense of calm and understanding. Instead of reacting immediately, we respond thoughtfully. One way to practice this is through mindful breathing. When a negative emotion arises, take a deep breath. As you breathe in, say to yourself, breathing in, I am aware of my anger. As you breathe out, say, breathing out, I let go of my anger. Do this a few times, and notice how the emotion begins to shift. It doesn't necessarily disappear, but it becomes more manageable. It no longer feels like it's consuming you. Buddhism teaches that all emotions, including the negative ones, are temporary. They come and go like waves in the ocean. No wave stays forever. Even the strongest, most intense emotions eventually pass. When we remember this, it becomes easier to sit with our emotions, knowing they won't last forever. We don't have to be afraid of them because they, too, will fade. Another important lesson from Buddhist teachings is the concept of non-attachment. Often, our suffering comes not from the negative emotion itself, but from our attachment to it. We hold on to our anger, replaying the situation in our minds over and over again. We cling to our sadness, telling ourselves stories about how things should have been different. This attachment only deepens our suffering. But when we practice non-attachment, we let go of the need to control or hold onto our emotions. We allow them to arise, and we allow them to pass. Just like clouds moving through the sky, they come and they go. We don't have to cling to them, and we don't have to push them away. We simply observe them with a sense of detachment. It's important to remember that this practice of embracing negative emotions is not something that happens overnight. It takes time, patience, and practice. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. Over time, you'll find that your negative emotions have less of a hold on you. You'll still feel them, of course. After all, you're human. But they won't control you in the same way. You'll be able to respond to them with clarity and compassion, rather than reacting impulsively. In embracing your negative emotions, you're not just learning how to manage them. You're transforming them. You're turning them into opportunities for growth and self-awareness. You're allowing them to teach you about yourself and your life. And in doing so, you're taking the first steps toward true emotional freedom. So, the next time you feel anger, sadness, or fear arise within you, don't push it away. Don't fight it. Instead, take a deep breath and say to yourself, I see you. Invite the emotion to sit with you and let it teach you what you need to learn. Over time, you'll begin to see that your negative emotions aren't obstacles. They're stepping stones on your path to a more mindful, peaceful life. The role of mindfulness in navigating negativity. Imagine you're walking through a forest. It's peaceful, the birds are singing, and the air is fresh. But then, suddenly, you step on a thorn. Instantly, your whole focus shifts to the pain in your foot. The beauty of the forest disappears because your mind is fixated on that one painful sensation. This is what happens with negativity in our lives. We could be surrounded by peace and joy, but one negative thought, one bad experience, and our attention narrows down to that pain. The practice of mindfulness teaches us how to shift our focus, how to notice the thorn without letting it take over our entire experience. Negativity, whether in the form of thoughts or emotions, is a natural part of life. But it's how we react to it that determines whether it controls us or whether we use it as a stepping stone for growth. Mindfulness is the tool that helps us navigate negativity without getting lost in it. Let's take a step back and understand what mindfulness is. At its core, mindfulness is the practice of being fully present in the moment. It's about paying attention to what's happening right now, without judgment. You might be thinking, but when I'm feeling negative emotions, how can I stay present without trying to get rid of them? That's a common reaction. We tend to want to push away uncomfortable feelings. But the more we resist them, the stronger they become. Mindfulness teaches us to observe these emotions without trying to change them. Let's say you're feeling anxious. Instead of trying to push the anxiety away or distract yourself from it, mindfulness asks you to simply notice the anxiety. Where do you feel it in your body? Is your heart racing? Are your muscles tense? By observing these sensations without judgment, you create space between you and the emotion. This space allows you to respond to the emotion calmly rather than react impulsively. Think of it like this. Imagine you're sitting by a river and leaves are floating by. Each leaf represents a thought or an emotion. When you're not mindful, you might find yourself grabbing onto a leaf, holding it tight, and letting it carry you down the river. But mindfulness teaches you to sit on the bank and watch the leaves float by. You don't have to grab onto any of them. You just notice them and let them pass. Now, how does this help with negativity? Often, when we're faced with negative thoughts or emotions, we either become overwhelmed by them or we try to escape from them. But mindfulness gives us a third option, to observe them without becoming attached to them. Let's say you're feeling anger. In a non-mindful state, you might act out of that anger, say or do things you later regret. Or you might try to suppress it, burying it deep inside where it festers. But with mindfulness, you simply notice the anger. You observe its presence without letting it dictate your actions. You might feel the heat rise in your body, your heart beating faster. But instead of reacting, you just notice these sensations and let them pass. This doesn't mean ignoring negativity or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about acknowledging it without letting it control you. You can sit with discomfort, whether it's sadness, frustration, or fear, without getting swept away by it. Mindfulness helps you become an observer of your own mind, rather than a prisoner to your thoughts and emotions. Let's consider an everyday example. Imagine you've had a tough day at work. You come home, and your mind is filled with frustration and stress. Maybe someone said something that upset you, or you made a mistake that you can't stop thinking about. Normally, this kind of negativity might spill over into the rest of your evening. You might snap at your loved ones, lose your temper, or find yourself unable to relax. But with mindfulness, you can pause, take a deep breath, and notice the thoughts and emotions that are swirling inside you. Instead of reacting to them, you simply observe. There's frustration. My chest feels tight. My mind is replaying that conversation over and over. You acknowledge these feelings without trying to push them away or change them. By doing this, you break the cycle of negativity. You're no longer feeding the frustration with more thoughts and emotions. Instead, you're giving it space to exist without letting it take over your entire evening. This practice of mindfulness doesn't just apply to moments of intense negativity. It's something we can use throughout our day, in both big and small situations. Let's say you're stuck in traffic. Normally, this might make you feel stressed or impatient. But instead of letting those emotions take control, you can use mindfulness to bring yourself back to the present moment. You notice the feeling of tension in your body, the thoughts of frustration running through your mind, and you simply observe them. You might take a deep breath and bring your attention to the sensation of the steering wheel in your hands or the sound of the cars around you. By doing this, you shift your focus away from the negative thoughts and emotions and back to the present moment. Mindfulness is like a muscle. The more you practice it, the stronger it becomes. At first, it might feel difficult to stay present when you're feeling negative emotions. Your mind might want to pull you back into the storm of thoughts and feelings. But over time, you'll find that it becomes easier to observe negativity without getting caught up in it. You'll develop the ability to stay calm in the face of difficult emotions, to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. This is where the true power of mindfulness lies. It doesn't make negativity disappear, but it changes your relationship with it. Instead of being something to fear or avoid, negativity becomes an opportunity for growth. It becomes a chance to practice patience, to strengthen your ability to stay present, and to learn more about yourself. In Buddhism, mindfulness is seen as a path to liberation. By becoming more aware of our thoughts and emotions, we free ourselves from the patterns of reactivity that keep us stuck in suffering. When we're mindful, we can navigate negativity with grace and ease, using it as a tool for transformation rather than letting it drag us down. So, the next time you find yourself facing negative thoughts or emotions, remember this. You don't have to get swept away by them. You can sit with them, observe them, and let them pass. Through mindfulness, you can learn to navigate negativity with a calm and open heart, transforming it into a source of inner strength and wisdom, turning negative thoughts into positive action. My friend, you have come a long way on this journey. You have been through the valley of understanding, seen the nature of your thoughts, and now you stand here, ready to ask, how do I turn these thoughts, these heavy clouds, into the sunshine of action? This is a question that arises naturally, like a leaf falling from a tree when the wind blows. And it is a question worth asking. You see, negative thoughts, they are like seeds. When they enter your mind, they have the potential to grow into either weeds or flowers. The secret is not in avoiding the seed, but in choosing how to nurture it. Shall we feed the seed of negativity with more worry, more fear? Or shall we transform it into something beautiful, something that will serve you and others? Let us begin with a simple observation. A negative thought, in its essence, is just that, a thought. It has no weight, no substance. Yet, if left unchecked, it becomes heavy, like a stone in your heart. But if you hold it lightly, with gentle curiosity, it loses its grip. Imagine, for a moment, you are sitting by a river. The water flows past you, carrying leaves, sticks, debris. Do you dive in and cling to the leaves? No. You watch them float by. Your thoughts are like this. If you can sit by the river of your mind and let the thoughts pass, you will find they have no power over you unless you give them that power. But this is not where we stop. No, there is more. For we must learn to turn these thoughts into action, to transform them. When you feel anger, frustration, or sadness, pause. Do not rush to act from these emotions. Instead, ask yourself, what is this emotion trying to teach me? You see, every emotion has a lesson within it. Anger might be pointing to an injustice you must address, but it can be addressed with wisdom, not more anger. Sadness might be showing you that something needs healing in your life, but healing comes with patience, not resistance. The mind is a curious thing. It likes to hold on to negative thoughts, replaying them again and again like a song stuck in your head. Why? Because it seeks to protect you. It believes that by focusing on what is wrong, it can avoid future pain. But this is an illusion. Pain is a part of life, as natural as the sunrise and sunset. The key is not to avoid it, but to transform it. Let us take a simple example. Imagine you have failed at something, perhaps a project at work or a relationship. Your mind immediately begins its chatter. I am not good enough. I will always fail. Why even try? These thoughts, if left unchecked, can grow into a story that defines you. But here is where the transformation begins. Instead of believing these thoughts, you must turn toward them with compassion. You say, I see you, my old friend doubt, my old companion fear. You acknowledge the thought, but you do not feed it. And then, you ask, what can I learn from this? From failure comes the seed of growth. Maybe you need to develop a new skill. Maybe you need to approach the situation differently next time. But you must act. You must take that negative thought and turn it into something that moves you forward. This is the way of transformation. In the teachings of the Buddha, we are reminded that our thoughts create our reality. But it is not the thoughts alone that shape our lives. It is the actions we take in response to them. When negative thoughts arise, do not push them away, do not fear them. Instead, greet them as a teacher would greet a student. What have you come to show me? And then, once you understand the lesson, act on it. This is the path. Remember, transformation does not happen all at once. It is like the slow opening of a flower. At first, you may only see a small change. Perhaps today, you catch yourself before speaking harshly in anger. Tomorrow, you may find that you are able to turn that anger into a calm, wise response. Each small step is a victory. Each time you choose to act from wisdom rather than react from emotion, you are transforming your life. And do not forget, my friend, that you are not alone on this path. The Buddha, too, faced his own negative thoughts, his own fears and doubts. But he did not turn away from them. He sat with them, observed them, and learned from them. In the same way, you must sit with your thoughts, learn from them, and then move forward with deliberate, mindful action. Now, I will give you a practice, something simple to carry with you as you walk this path. The next time you notice a negative thought, stop. Do not rush past it. Take a deep breath and ask yourself, what is this thought trying to teach me? Then, instead of reacting, choose your next action carefully. This action should be one that aligns with your highest self, your deepest wisdom. It may not be easy, but it will be right. Over time, as you continue this practice, you will find that negative thoughts lose their power. They will still arise. This is the nature of the mind. But they will no longer control you. Instead, they will become opportunities for growth, for learning, and for transformation. This is the art of turning negative thoughts into positive action. It is not about suppressing or avoiding negativity. It is about using it, transforming it, and allowing it to guide you toward deeper wisdom and compassion. So, my friend, the next time you find yourself in the grip of negative thoughts, remember this. You have the power to transform them. You have the power to take that negativity and turn it into something that serves you, something that moves you forward on your path. The journey is long, but every step you take with mindfulness and compassion brings you closer to the peace and clarity you seek. And that, my friend, is how you turn negative thoughts into positive action. Step by step, breath by breath, thought by thought, you are transforming your life. Detachment and letting go. Overcoming negative attachments. Imagine, if you will, a leaf floating on a stream. It drifts effortlessly, guided by the flow of the water. It does not cling to the branches or resist the current. It simply follows the path before it, moving with grace and ease. In our lives, we can learn much from this leaf. Detachment, in the Buddhist sense, does not mean abandoning everything you hold dear. It is about releasing the hold that negative attachments have over you. We often find ourselves tethered to past regrets, future anxieties, or current grievances. These attachments weigh us down, making it hard to move forward or find peace. Consider a time when you've held on to a grudge or resentment. Perhaps someone wronged you, and the anger from that experience lingered, affecting your daily life. This attachment to past hurt is like a heavy stone in your backpack. It keeps you from walking freely and joyfully. To let go of this stone, you must first recognize its weight and then gently place it down. Buddhism teaches us that suffering arises from clinging. Clinging to our desires, our possessions, or even our identities can cause pain. When we cling, we create a barrier to our own happiness. Letting go is not about giving up on everything. It's about understanding what truly matters and freeing ourselves from what is not. Let's think about a more practical example. Picture a person who is deeply attached to their job title and status. They may feel that their worth is tied to their position. If this person faces a setback or loses their job, they might experience a profound sense of loss and identity crisis. But if they practice detachment, they learn that their worth is not tied to any single role or title. They begin to see that their value comes from within, not from external achievements. Detachment is about freeing ourselves from the constraints of our attachments so that we can live more fully in the present. It allows us to respond to situations with clarity and equanimity, rather than reacting out of fear or desire. One way to practice detachment is through mindfulness and meditation. When you sit quietly and observe your thoughts without judgment, you start to see them as passing clouds rather than permanent fixtures. This practice helps you realize that you are not your thoughts or your attachments. You are the observer of them. Another aspect of detachment is letting go of the need for approval or validation from others. We often seek others' approval to feel good about ourselves, but true contentment comes from within. When you let go of this need, you become more self-reliant and less affected by external opinions. Detachment also involves accepting change. Everything in life is impermanent. The people, situations, and even our own emotions change over time. By accepting this reality, we can learn to flow with life's changes rather than resist them. Imagine a flower in a garden. It blooms beautifully and then withers away. It does not resist its natural cycle. It simply embraces each stage of its existence. We, too, can embrace the different stages of our lives without clinging to any one moment or experience. As you work on letting go of negative attachments, remember that it is a process. It requires patience and self-compassion. Be gentle with yourself as you navigate through your attachments and learn to release them. By practicing detachment, you allow yourself to live more freely and fully. You can experience joy and peace without the heavy burden of past grievances or future anxieties. You become like the leaf on the stream, flowing effortlessly and gracefully through the waters of life. In this journey of letting go, remember that you are not alone. Everyone has attachments and struggles with letting go. It is a universal part of the human experience. By embracing this practice, you join a long tradition of seekers who have found freedom and peace through the art of detachment. The power of being alone. Solitude. In the clamor of the world, it is a precious space that we often overlook. Yet, within the quiet of being alone, there lies a profound power, a power that many overlook in their daily rush. To be alone is not to be lonely, but rather to find a sanctuary within oneself, a place where true transformation begins. Imagine a river flowing ceaselessly. The water is clear, and its path is unwavering. But when obstacles arise, the water finds a way to flow around them, adapting and continuing its journey. So it is with us. In moments of solitude, we become like that river, able to reflect, to adapt, and to discover the depth of our own being. Being alone allows us to listen to our inner voice, a voice often drowned out by the noise of daily life. It is in this quiet space that we come face to face with ourselves. Here, we are free from the judgments and expectations of others. We can explore our true desires, fears, and dreams. In solitude, we have the opportunity to understand who we are without the influence of external opinions. This journey inward is not always easy. It can bring up uncomfortable truths and hidden fears. Yet, it is precisely through confronting these aspects of ourselves that we grow. Solitude is a mirror, reflecting back our innermost self. It invites us to examine our lives with honesty and compassion. In Buddhism, solitude is cherished as a time for meditation and self-reflection. The Buddha himself sought solitude to gain enlightenment. In this quiet space, he could delve deeply into the nature of suffering, the self, and the path to liberation. Similarly, when we embrace solitude, we allow ourselves to explore these fundamental questions. Being alone also grants us the space to cultivate inner peace. When we are constantly surrounded by others, our mind is often distracted. Solitude helps us to quiet these distractions and find a sense of calm within. This inner peace is not dependent on external circumstances. It is a state of being that we can cultivate through our practice of solitude. Moreover, solitude fosters creativity. When we are alone, we are free from the constraints of others' expectations. We can explore our creativity without judgment. Many great artists, writers, and thinkers have found their inspiration in moments of solitude. It is in these quiet moments that our imagination can truly flourish. Solitude also teaches us resilience. When we spend time alone, we learn to rely on ourselves. We become more self-sufficient and less dependent on others for our happiness. This self-reliance is a source of strength. It empowers us to face life's challenges with confidence and grace. However, solitude is not about isolation. It is about finding balance. While it is important to have time alone, it is equally important to connect with others. The key is to integrate these moments of solitude with meaningful relationships. This balance enriches our lives and helps us grow in a holistic way. In summary, the power of being alone is a gift that allows us to connect with our true selves, cultivate inner peace, spark creativity, and build resilience. It is a practice that, when embraced with mindfulness, leads to profound personal transformation. So, seek out these moments of solitude. Embrace them as opportunities for growth and self-discovery. In the silence, you will find the answers you seek, and in the quiet, you will uncover the strength that lies within. The path of acceptance, finding strength in vulnerability. In the quiet of the morning, when the world still sleeps and the sun has not yet kissed the horizon, there lies a profound truth. Acceptance begins in the stillness of the early hours. Just as the dawn breaks gently, so too can we learn to embrace the fragile beauty of our own vulnerabilities. Imagine, if you will, a delicate flower in the early morning mist. It does not fight the dew that rests upon its petals. Instead, it accepts this gentle touch, allowing it to nourish and enhance its beauty. In the same way, we are invited to accept our own vulnerabilities, not as weaknesses, but as essential parts of our human experience. Acceptance is not merely a passive state. It is an active practice. When we face difficulties, we often resist them, hoping they will disappear or change. This resistance, however, only adds to our suffering. The Zen path teaches us that to find true strength, we must first accept what is. This acceptance does not mean we condone our suffering, but rather that we acknowledge it and allow ourselves to be present with it. Consider a river flowing through a valley. It does not struggle against the rocks and obstacles in its path. Instead, it moves around them, finding the path of least resistance. Similarly, when we accept our vulnerabilities, we allow ourselves to flow more freely through the challenges of life. We find that by accepting ourselves fully, our fears, our doubts, our imperfections, we unlock a deeper well of inner strength and resilience. In Buddhism, the concept of non-attachment is closely linked to acceptance. Non-attachment does not mean we do not care about things or people. Rather, it means that we do not cling to them or let them define our sense of self. When we accept that change is an inherent part of life, we begin to understand that our vulnerabilities are not obstacles but rather invitations to grow and learn. To practice acceptance, start by acknowledging your feelings without judgment. If you feel overwhelmed or uncertain, simply notice these emotions. Say to yourself, I see you. I understand you. You are part of my journey. By doing so, you create space for these emotions to exist without letting them control you. This is the essence of mindfulness, being fully present with what is, without trying to alter or escape it. Acceptance also involves recognizing that we are all interconnected. Our vulnerabilities are not unique to us alone. Every person you meet has their own struggles and fears. When we accept our own vulnerabilities, we also cultivate empathy and compassion for others. We see that we are all walking similar paths, each carrying our own burdens. In this space of acceptance, we find a profound sense of peace. We come to understand that our worth is not dependent on external circumstances or on our ability to avoid discomfort. Rather, our worth is intrinsic and unshakable. When we accept ourselves fully, we align with this inner truth and discover a reservoir of strength that was always within us. So, as you navigate the waters of life, remember that acceptance is a powerful ally. Embrace your vulnerabilities with kindness and understanding. Allow yourself to be present with your struggles, knowing that they are not signs of failure, but rather opportunities for growth. In this way, acceptance becomes a gateway to a more fulfilling and resilient life. In the quiet of the early hours, when the world is still, find solace in the practice of acceptance. Like the river flowing gently around obstacles, let your acceptance guide you through life's challenges. Embrace your vulnerabilities, and in doing so, discover the strength and peace that lie within. Cultivating resilience. How negativity builds inner strength. In the quiet of the dawn, as the world slumbers, there lies a profound truth. Resilience is born from the shadows of negativity. Just as a pearl forms from the irritation of a grain of sand within an oyster, our inner strength often emerges from the discomfort of negative experiences. This simple wisdom offers a path to understanding how challenges and hardships can be the very forge of our resilience. Imagine a young tree standing in a storm. The wind howls, the rain lashes, and yet the tree bends and sways. It does not break. Instead, it grows stronger with each gust of wind, its roots digging deeper into the earth. Similarly, in our own lives, negativity can act as the storm that tests our strength and flexibility. It challenges us, but in the process, it helps us build a deeper, more unshakable foundation. When we encounter negative experiences, whether they be failures, rejections, or losses, we are presented with an opportunity. It is in these moments of struggle that we are invited to examine our core beliefs and values. Just as a sculptor chisels away at a block of marble to reveal a statue within, our hardships chip away at our superficial layers, revealing the resilient essence of who we truly are. Think of a time when you faced a significant challenge. Perhaps it was a personal setback or a professional failure. Initially, it might have felt like a crushing blow, but as time passed, you might have noticed something unexpected. The challenge, though painful, began to teach you valuable lessons. It prompted you to develop new skills, to adapt, and to grow. In retrospect, it became clear that this negative experience was, in fact, a powerful catalyst for personal development. In Buddhism, we speak of the concept of anti-fragility. Unlike mere resilience, which allows us to recover from stress, anti-fragility means that we actually become stronger because of the stress we endure. Just as the storm strengthens the tree, adversity strengthens us. This perspective encourages us to not merely endure hardships, but to welcome them as opportunities for growth. Consider the story of the lotus flower. It begins its life in the muddiest of waters, where it faces the challenge of emerging through the murky depths to reach the surface. Yet, the very mud that could have impeded its growth becomes the medium through which it blossoms into a beautiful, pristine flower. Similarly, the negativity we experience can be the fertile ground from which our inner strength grows. Resilience is not something we are born with. It is cultivated through our responses to life's trials. Each negative experience, each hardship, becomes a teacher if we choose to learn from it. It offers us the chance to develop qualities such as patience, courage, and fortitude. Just as a diamond is formed under intense pressure, so too are we shaped and refined by the difficulties we face. In embracing this view, we begin to see negativity not as an adversary but as a partner in our journey of growth. We learn to approach challenges with an open heart, ready to extract the lessons they hold. This shift in perspective transforms the way we experience adversity, allowing us to turn it into a source of strength and wisdom. So, as we navigate the storms of our lives, let us remember that each gust of wind and each drop of rain is an opportunity to deepen our roots and strengthen our spirit. Just as the tree grows sturdier with each storm it endures, so too do we grow stronger with each challenge we face. Embrace the negativity, for it is the forge in which your resilience is tempered and your true strength is revealed.